Why you're hearing next to nothing about the Colorado school shooting from the mainstream media, bullying and berating autistic little kids in elementary schools, and trying to convince 8-year-old boys that they're actually transgender. Next on the Dr. Duke Show. Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Duke, and this is the Dr. Duke Show. Every week, Katie and I cover those stories impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses around the globe. Greetings to all of our listeners, and if you haven't done so, consider subscribing to our absolutely free podcast on iTunes or anywhere else you can get podcasts and never miss an episode. Make sure you stick around because later in the show we'll be discussing a disturbing story out of Florida where teachers were secretly caught screaming profanities at autistic students day after day. Plus a second grade teacher is caught trying to convince an 8-year-old boy that he's actually a girl. Seems to me whenever there's a school shooting, this is an endless 3-week marathon of horrible stories, of calls for gun control, of liberal politicians targeting the NRA. But we had a school shooting go down last week that was pretty important. It was at a Colorado school, all right, same place that we had Columbine, and no one's talking about it, Katie. This is a school shooting on May 7th at a STEM school in Highlands Ranch, Colorado. 8 students injured and one 18-year-old just 3 days away from graduation killed. Vigil Castillo is being hailed as a hero, the student, after he rushed the shooter to prevent further casualties. 2 teenage boys were taken into custody. Maybe this is their two teenage boys were taken into custody. Maybe, I'll let you, maybe this is the reason, Katie, we're not hearing about this on the news. What do you think it is?
I don't know. It could have something to do with the fact that the suspects, who we will not name the shooters to give them any sort of glory, but one of them is an 18-year-old male shooter who they looked, obviously what you do first is look to their social media and what they've been saying, and on Facebook, which the page has been deleted, said that basically he's opposing any Christians who hate gays. There's been phrasing about that. This 18-year-old has supported Occupy Democrats, and he opposes President Trump.
Radically opposes Donald Trump.
The other teen is a 16-year-old girl who you said boy. So it's confusing because a 16-year-old girl is reportedly transitioning to be male, and actually at the court, at the initial hearings, the lawyers asked that their client have the male pronouns be used, of course. And so when the shooting first happened, okay, yes, there's a shooting that happened. Then all of a sudden, oh no, we found out who the shooters were. And on top of it was Wednesday night, they had held a vigil at the school for Castillo, and it ended in a walkout, which a vigil for, they just lost one of their classmates, and how do you get a walkout out of that? But it's because the speakers who came to this vigil were mostly politicians and gun restriction advocates.
We are pretty much really mad because they turned us into politics about gun control when we came here to respect our brother Kendrick, who gave his life up. What is happening at STEM is awful, but it's not a statistic. We can't be used for a reason for gun control. We are people, not a statement.
So the event was actually organized by the Brady Campaign to Prevent Gun Violence, and the students apparently were unaware that this was happening, that there was, obviously this other agenda going on. And about a half hour in, they report about several hundred of the students, of the about 2,000 who were there, just started chanting, "This is not for us," political statement, "We are people, not a statement." And then these brave teens got up, walked out, held their own impromptu vigil outside, and they had cell phones that they put up with the light on it, and they were yelling, "Mental health. Mental health! Mental health! Mental health!"
So I don't know what's worse. The mainstream media more or less ignores this horrible story that had highlights, right? The young man who risked his life to protect people. The mainstream media ignores this because of who the suspects' origins, backgrounds, and politics are. And yet the school decides to hold a vigil where they invite only radical political speakers to trash the NRA, right? So you get the worst of both worlds with progressives. On the one hand, the mainstream media ignores the reality of who the shooters were. On the other hand, at a private vigil to honor the dead, it turns into a political campaign rally for Democrats. And God bless these kids for walking out. I'm going to tell you, that's the other thing. We've said many times on this show that one of the primary focus of your kids' public school education now is not ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. It is social justice engineering. It is manipulating kids to become more progressively political. And the fact that a significant number of these kids at this rally, and it wasn't a vigil, it wasn't a memorial, it was a rally. It was a rally for radical, progressive, left-wing gun causes. Kids they stood up and chanted, and they stood up and chanted. How's this for being empowered? They were told specifically by the organizers, the school organizers, that they will not be allowed to speak, that they will not be able to get up and address what the speakers were saying. So they took in their initiative and started chanting before they walked out. That's good. That's good civil disobedience right there.
Well, think back just 1 year when we had Parkland, and obviously that was a huge tragedy. And immediately the media was all hailing these small group of teenagers who organized and rallied together to organize that, they want to take back their schools and they want to be safer in their schools. But that was completely orchestrated by these political groups behind the scenes. But no, it was all of the teenagers who did it. It wasn't. Well, it wasn't that.
Even CNN, for God's sake, fake journalism, pretended they staged the event where students attacked Marco Rubio on stage.
We have a town hall. Yep,
Yeah,
we have all that. But now we have an actual event saying it was actually orchestrated by the Brady campaign to prevent gun violence. It's pretty clear what they're doing in their own title, and yet the media is like, shh, nothing to see here.
Right, they have no problem literally tattooing on their foreheads who the progressive sponsor is of this. They thought they had a captive audience. Mm-hmm. They thought they had a captive audience, that these kids, because of the tragedy they suffered, would be more than willing to do any extreme, to get behind any extreme measure to limit civil liberties in the name of the emotional trauma they just suffered. And these kids recognized they wanted to grieve. They wanted to memorialize their fellow classmate. They didn't want the politics.
And the thing is, this story doesn't just stop there. Every day, it seems like more and more information is coming out, but it's getting quieter and quieter unless you're still the one, feet on the ground trying to get the story. Because the more information that has come out is that the father of the transgender teen, so of the girl, is actually a criminal illegal alien, and he's been deported twice. Now, according to Daily Mail, the 33-year-old father, quote, is a serial felon and illegal immigrant from Mexico who was once jailed for 15 months for domestic violence against the shooter's mother and menacing with a weapon. So in 2008, he was charged with attempting to kidnap, menacing with a weapon, and failing to stop for police. In 2016, not that long ago, it was domestic violence. And so they took a look at the transgender teen social media as well, and they found posts that included her wondering why her dad wasn't around. And the New York Post reported that post made by the transgender shooter showed a psychologically tortured kid who experimented with drugs, detested classmates, and was struggling to fit in.
Yeah, what's really remarkable about this is that the reason we're not hearing about this is every Democrat constituency group is ticked off there, right? Tick off the boxes in terms of what an embarrassment this is. Again, and I don't believe in sensationalizing and politicizing news, but they do it all the time, right? If every aspect of this was as Republican-leaning or conservative-leaning as it is progressive-leaning, it would be all over the news 24/7.
One last thing on this. The Douglas County Board of Commissioners just voted unanimously for a $10 million commitment to school safety and mental health. And so they did an immediate response, and they're going to just give $10 million to the school for school safety. We'll see how it exactly
it gets spent.
Is spent, and they're going to discuss how the one-time lump sum will be spent.
$5 million of that will go. The superintendent has decided that $5 million of that will go to create gun space-free zones in the library.
Yeah, but the overall arching point is this is a tragic story and another case of where our kids are not safe at school. Right. And it's being politicized, kind of, but not. And
you trivialize it, and you trivialize the dead when you make it simply about guns.
All right, well, we have a similar story, but kind of on a good way. We have the Florida governor, the new governor, Ron DeSantis, who just recently signed into law allowing for teachers to actually carry guns in school. So now if teachers want to, they're not forced to. If they want to, they can have a weapon on them. And this is actually in response to what happened at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland. And I want to be very, very clear, because people have been twisting this and making it like, well, now, the 70-year-old home ec teacher has to carry a pistol on her, and that's not the case at all. The new law expands an existing school guardian program. It's called a guardian program, and it allows any teacher to volunteer, if you know what volunteer means, to carry a weapon if his or her school district approves. So it's not even, okay, now every teacher in Florida has a gun. It's your school district. They're actually giving it to local control. They have to approve it. All right. And then these volunteers can't just get the gun the next day. They have to undergo at least 144 hours of police-style training, psychiatric evaluation, and drug screening. I want to be very clear on that. It's not like we're just handing them out.
What a remarkable turn of events that our 200-year-old constitutional right to carry guns is now being recognized by schools. And you still have people complaining about it, right? What if that poor individual who rushed, Manny Castillo, who rushed the shooter in the Colorado case, what if his teacher was armed? What if there were 10 teachers in that school who had undergone this incredibly complicated series of trainings to be able to carry a gun on a high school campus? What would have happened then?
Something a lot, well,
Something
he
very
may be
different.
alive. Yeah, he may be alive. But the thing about that is, too, they didn't have any, like an armed officer on campus at that time. So the fact that in Florida now, if your school district proves you can do that, how is that not about improving safety for our children? Isn't that the goal, is improve safety for our children?
There's no way you can argue that responsibly armed teachers are a negative or that they're a problem. I mean, the one perhaps exception to that is the related story.
Yeah, we found a video of a teacher at Arroyo Grande High School in California was actually caught on someone's cell phone saying that if teachers were armed, she would actually be tempted to put the gun in the face of her students. So if you check out the video, you can hear what the teacher says.
How do I say this? I've had students before who, if I have a gun on me, I might be like really tempted to pull it out and shove it in their face just to get
The student's reaction, if you watch the video, I think says it all, because one girl, once she heard that, even looked up from her cell phone, being like, wait, what? Why would a teacher say that? Tongue-in-cheek, or if she was trying to make a joke, we don't know the actual intent of why the teacher, what context the teacher even said it. But to say that to a class of teenagers is just stupid.
My guess would be that she opposes the idea and she was trying to make a ridiculous statement about how foolish it would be. But it just revealed her own folly. You know, go back to the original story here about arming these teachers. Not surprisingly, Democrats and teachers' unions are opposed. And those are the two constituency groups that don't care about your kids in public school. And that's horrifying. When you think about the degree to which progressive politics, Democrat-driven policies govern your kids' schools across the country, when you think about that, Democrats don't want to protect your kids, and they don't want teachers to protect your kids. Teachers' unions, whose job it is, teachers unions don't even care about your kids. How many times have we heard from teacher officials, student union officials, that they don't care about your kids' education? They care about promoting the welfare and the financial strength of the teachers. They're not even protecting their teachers. Your teachers are forking over all these dues to the unions, and the unions are basically saying, screw you, you don't get to defend yourself. We don't care. We don't even care if you defend the kids, but we're not going to let teachers defend themselves. Democrats and teachers unions oppose.
Yeah, the good news is already Reuters reported in Florida that anticipating that bill was going to be passed, that teachers can be armed, school employees in 40 of Florida's 67 counties already enrolled or plan to enroll for the 144-hour course. So they're being proactive and they're ready to be able to protect the children.
The thing about progressivism is most progressives are adamant that they believe it until they actually have to face reality or mortality, right? When most progressives I know, which is typically academic ones, are actually forced to have to live their convictions, suddenly their worldview changes. And it's interesting to me that if that's a significant number of teachers in districts, what that tells me is that when it comes to protecting your life, the dawning recognition by school teachers that they are targets, that has both conservative and liberal teachers signing up for this program.
Yeah.
As opposed to the Democrats and the teachers' unions who don't want them to.
Absolutely. But just a quick reminder that our show grows because of all of you viewers and listeners out there. So please continue to spread the word on the Dr. Duke Show by liking, commenting, and sharing each episode on whatever platform you prefer, be it Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. And don't forget the audio podcast makes for a great listen when you're on a run or you're just watching people run. Maybe you're sitting on a park bench. We're on iTunes and everywhere else. So please subscribe and give us that 5-star review so we can continue to move up in the rankings.
If you won't do it for us, do it for little baby Patrick, right? Who, with every show we do and more people listening, the positive bona fide feedback that will enter this child, it's just something to behold. So if you won't do it for us, do it for the kid.
You bring in either babies or puppies. That's what we do here. Get the sympathy.
While you're shopping for maternity-sized Argyle sweaters, how about a Argyle onesie? Can anybody help us with that? We need an Argyle onesie for little Patrick.
Oh, it's not for me? Come on.
Well, you could probably fit into it.
I think I could, at least for a little while.
I always wonder, somebody your size, 3.5 feet tall, it's going to be, just make sure you get the full epidural.
I've hired the wardrobe people from Lord of the Rings.
And what you don't know at home, Mom and Dad, is Katie is about 3 foot 5 inches tall. 3 feet 5 inches tall, something like that, Hobbit size. Her husband is 6'8", literally 6 foot 8
that
inches
is true.
tall.
That part.
Right? So we're looking at a 19-pound baby. All right. So not only does she need an Argyle onesie, how about some Argyle colored ibuprofen?
Oh, geez.
Because that's going to be painful.
Let's move on, because we just have to. We have a story, another one coming out of Florida, and what do you know? It's back in Broward County, because Broward County cannot stay out of the news. This time, we have video showing teachers who are actually cursing and screaming at autistic students. So it's basically more ludicrousness caught on camera. And teachers and staff at Pasadena Lakes Elementary School in Pembroke Pines, they were caught on tape. And basically the situation arose when a father of a 6-year-old boy who is on the autism spectrum came home one day, and he started using swear words in like an aggressive manner with the dad. And Dad Matt Adar said, "My son mimics everything he hears, but he wasn't whispering it. He was saying it in an aggressive manner." He said, "Get over here. I'm going to F you up. Get over here. I'm going to mess you up." So I knew that it was an authoritative figure who did this. So here's a recording, what they picked up from the teachers at the school.
So do your last set of drag back over there. Watch me and you. Try to me. You better not touch me or scratch me, you understand? You're getting a diaper change.
All right, so the simple fact that you have a teacher saying that mother expletive, say expletive to me, and you have, so do your work, and then there's some inaudible and drag your ass over there, watch me, try me. Just listening to what these teachers are saying and hearing like their tone, this is not the first time they've done this. This is kind of like now I got to yell at them. When the one teacher says, "You better not touch me or scratch me, you understand? You're getting a diaper change." Their tone, their mannerism with it just seems like this is a daily, weekly occurrence.
Yeah, over the last couple of weeks, just in the last 3 weeks alone, we've done a dozen stories about how kids are being abused, physically abused, emotionally abused, abused across the spectrum by teachers. And we realize, right, that this is not a majority of teachers. We want to make that clear. But I do think there is something dehumanizing about modern public school education. We have separated teachers and caregivers from kids. We have put a wall of politics between them. We have reduced these educational classrooms to nothing more than exercises in radical political social justice. And so what I think you're seeing here is the worst aspects of politics globally. You think about how politics in our country has become weaponized. And if indeed we are transforming the schools, as we've seen time again, to become places of political indoctrination, not so much education, genuine education, why are we surprised that we're seeing teachers and administrative aides acting out of the same weaponized perspective that we see with politics writ large?
Well, and it's just become monotonized. Anytime this story happens, which is happening way too frequently, what happens? So we find out the story happens, and the parents are like, "I can't believe this is happening." Then the school comes out with their official statement saying, "We've removed the teachers, this won't happen again." Then the public outcry is, "Well, if this was my student's school, this would not be happening." It's the same thing repeated over and over, so nothing actually changes with it.
No, and we've created a system, a disgusting system, where parents are lectured by the teachers now. The kids that we send to our public schools are lectured by the teachers. The parental view is being frozen out. You know what we really need? Why don't we have a situation where parent groups are required to speak to teachers? What if we had parents groups, right, in every school, and every time a new teacher was hired, or once every semester, they come into the public schools and they sit the teachers down and they teach them a little empathy, advise these teachers on how you handle autistic kids, how you handle difficult kids, how you handle developmentally disabled kids. What if we did that? Bring a little humanity back and tie the communities a little bit more closely to the teachers. I'm pretty sure Democrats and teachers unions wouldn't approve.
Well, and if you want to be specific to students with disabilities, just a little story time with Katie again this week. In my education program, and this is a sad testament to our education program, if you are not specifically getting a degree with special education, like so me, secondary ed, where I'll be a regular, if you want to call it regular, classroom teacher, you have one class in special ed.
That's right.
And the teacher who actually taught it was currently teaching in a K-12 system. So at least he was in it every day, and he had the degree in special ed. But he said he even said it was sad. This is the only opportunity, exposure you're going to get to this information, understanding what it is teaching kids with special needs. And it's just more so knowing the laws, not even knowing empathy or how
it's not.
Working with that. And
How
that
to
makes it even
cover your ass is what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
And what's worse about this is we're now taking incredibly healthy kids who are perhaps 2 or 3 grades ahead, who are bored and acting out because they're not allowed to move ahead, thank you, Common Core. We're taking actually healthy, well-adjusted kids who are just being frustrated, and we're labeling them developmentally disabled. So the number of kids, in other words, we know that in the public schools, if you don't graduate most of your kids or promote them to the next grade, then your school is going to lose money. So you got 2 kinds of kids. Those you social promote who aren't ready, and those who you can't promote who you're just label as disabled. Because when you label kids disabled, you don't have to promote them, and you get even more money for your school because they're disabled. So all kinds of kids who don't belong in the category of developmentally disabled are being labeled that way to further the coffers of the schools.
Yep, and just to put a little fine point at the end here, of course, Broward Schools officials in their statement, they said, they're taking this very seriously, allegations, and they said the teacher and the aide have been reassigned and removed from that classroom while the investigation continues.
Because the teachers' unions won't let you fire them, right?
Exactly. So
because the teachers' unions care more about their abusive faculty's perks and prerogatives than they do about the welfare of your kids. And notice what you never hear. You never hear a teachers' union say, we're taking this very seriously. What they always say is, you can't fire that professor, that teacher, no matter what he does.
Yeah. Well, let's look into firing a teacher who out in Oregon is telling a little second grader that, oh, well, you're a boy now, but really, you're a girl, and trying to actually educate the boy to be a girl. So this is an insane story out of Oregon where a teacher tried to convince an 8-year-old boy he was transgender, and now the parents are suing the school district for $1 million. So the background is actually from a year ago. The then 8-year-old, now 9, was at Nellie Muir Elementary School in Woodburn. Now he had a little stomach troubles, so he felt uncomfortable using the boys' restroom, so he started to use the faculty restroom. And according to this teacher, wow, that obviously makes him transgender because he doesn't want to go in the boys' bathroom. So the teacher, according to the lawsuit they're filing, the teacher developed a lesson plan without any authorization from the school district, and on at least 3 occasions, it's a female teacher, kept the boy in during recess and showed him videos and books with the message that it is acceptable to become transgender. And she allegedly required him to watch episodes of that reality TV show, I Am Jazz.
Well, it wasn't just that the district didn't know. I don't give a damn if the district knows. The moms didn't know. The parents didn't know. They kept this kid back. She held him after class. She created her own pro-transgender curriculum to give to this kid, all because he was embarrassed to go to a public bathroom, a boys' room that has multiple stalls. I guarantee you he chose the faculty bathroom in this case because it was smaller, and it may have been just a one-person bathroom. So on the basis of that, you decide that the kid is transgender. Here, this is the problem that we have. Because of our politicized school system, right? A school system, as we said again, demonstrates the point again, that emphasizes activism and advocacy over education. There's almost nothing these teachers can. These teachers need to convert kids. They need to come up with these kind of kids to justify their own politics. I mean, they're not. These teachers aren't held accountable for the fact that our kids can't read. They're not accountable for the fact that they can't pass college career readiness tests. We're not responsible for the fact that they're 2 or 3 years behind the grades they should be in, according to the NAAP scores, right? They're not accountable for that. We don't hold them responsible for that. Like, we keep giving them raises and more money, even if they can. And some of this isn't their fault. Some of this is the paradigm. Some of this is the pedagogy. Some of this is the Common Core garbage. But we don't hold them responsible for that. So we do hold them responsible for social justice, right? You got to make sure there's no bullies. You got to make sure that homosexuality is well represented. You got to make sure that transgender kids, even if you don't have any, feel comfortable. So why are we surprised that this kind of left-wing behavior, this left-wing mentality, always breaks into advocacy? It's not enough to accommodate a transgender kid if you have one. You have to find them, even if you have to twist their minds into becoming them to justify what you're doing.
It's sick and twisted, and it's almost like Pokemon. I don't play it, but it's like you got to catch them all is the phrase. You got to catch them all. It's like these teachers are playing Pokemon with kids. Like, ooh, I have a boy who said he likes to play with Barbies. Yes, check it off on my list. And like, I have the most diverse classroom. Who do you have? And they're kind of competing against one another. It makes me wonder if this teacher hadn't kind of been searching out, looking for who, like.
No doubt about it.
It's just
advocacy.
Well, yeah, and my question on her is that just who she is, or has she also been in her education and then just being kind of pummeled with this social justice warrior type mentality? How much of it is even her thinking it? It's just
tainted with this. And just do a little comparison. Let's say you had a gay middle school kid, a gay young male middle school kid, who one day, because he's got gastric distress, doesn't want to go to the bathroom with the other boys, but goes into a faculty bathroom. Would you then pull that boy aside and say, maybe you're not gay after all? Maybe by choosing not to go to as a gay male, not choosing to go to the bathroom with the other gay males and choosing a faculty bathroom, maybe that means you're heterosexual. And set aside lessons, right? Pull the kid after class without telling the teachers about, and here's what heterosexuality is. Here's why you might be heterosexual. Here are all the ways you can embrace your inner heterosexuality. That teacher the unions would get behind firing that teacher in a hurry.
Absolutely. And as you kind of mentioned before, the thing is the parents had no idea what was happening with this, and they didn't find out until the boy was actually told to take some books home and share them with his family. And then they're like, excuse me? And when the parents basically went to the school and said, why is this happening? The school was rather dismissive, saying, if this happened in Portland, again, we're in Oregon, if this happened in Portland, it would not be a big deal.
Listen to the school's response. If you didn't live in the freaking Midwestern Hicks, if your kids were if this was UC Berkeley or Madison, Wisconsin, or if this was Austin, Texas, right, or if this was New York City, they would have embraced this.
Oh,
right?
Absolutely.
They would have actually had the kid visit all 3 bathrooms, right, and choose which one, right? A tour, a bathroom tour to celebrate.
Wow. Well, the sad aftermath of this is that the boy, again, is now 9. It's been a whole year, and this lawsuit's going to take even longer. But the boy is now shying away from playing with girl toys or girl-related type games. Mom has said he's underwent personality changes. He's become more depressed, aggressive, and isolated. And she said he feels different now. He feels confused. To hear your son say that on a couch talking to a therapist, holding back tears, it's very heartbreaking.
You got a young boy who's singled out in class and browbeaten, right? In perhaps a gentle way, but it's still browbeating, right? Was browbeating into having to consider the fact that because one day he chose an alternate bathroom because he had bowel issues. On top of all the other problems with this, you're basically saying to him, overtly or covertly, maybe you're not as masculine as you think you are. Maybe those things we traditionally associate with boys and boys traditionally associate with themselves, maybe you're not that. I mean, it's a kind of identity rape, isn't it, that took place here?
It really is. Well, we have another issue where parents are trying to, one parent is actually trying to make it so that transgenderism is not being, put on his family member. And it's a Canadian father who we only know as Clark, as the name was given. But he's now been charged with family violence because he's refusing to call his 14-year-old daughter a boy. This story has been going on for quite a long time, and it's under appeal yet, so there's more coming out about it. But back in February, the Supreme Court of British Columbia, again, we're in Canada, so Justin Trudeau land, they ruled that the daughter could get hormone treatments to change her sex, all without parental permission. She's 14 years old. And the hospital administering the treatments and the teen school refused to let the dad get involved. So dad says, you're a girl, you've always been a girl. They're using her name, calling it Maxine, because we don't have the actual name. But she wants to be known as a boy, and he's like, you're a girl, I'm going to use your birth name, and now family violence.
Yeah, it's actual violence, right? And you see this on the left, right? Speech, language, oh God, don't I know it. Even opinions based on books are now hate speech, right? All this is predictable. I don't know what you can do in Canada. I mean, since you've got a very sexually ambiguous prime minister
Pajama
who
boy.
wears really odd-looking socks.
Yeah, he does.
Strange socks. The whole country seems to be going down that road. But if I'm the mom and dad, I would fight this vehemently in court, number one. Number two, I would also then say, if you're going to play this game with me, then I'm going to make you responsible financially for every aspect of this child's transition. You need to buy our food. You need to compensate us. If you're going to take away my parental right to enforce this, then you have effectively made yourself parent instead of me. So you should be paying me for her room and board. You should be paying me for all her clothing. You should be paying me for all her social activities. You should be paying me a monthly allowance, right? Because you've decided that you're the parent. And being parent means being fiscally responsible, not just responsible for altering what's in their pants when you see fit.
Well, of course, they gag ordered him because he was speaking out about this.
Oh, and you can't speak either.
You can't speak.
Oh,
Well, no,
nice.
but here's the thing. So they gag ordered him, but the judge insisted that his freedom of thought and speech remained completely unaffected by their ruling.
You can't talk, but you can
talk.
think.
You can think, but
And if we knew what you were thinking, we'd probably silence that too. But in any event, our censorship of speech and our warnings about your thoughts don't constitute any threat to you.
Thank you, George Orwell. Okay, so according to them, there is no requirement that Clark, that's the dad, change his views about what is best for his daughter. It's only how he expresses those views privately to her and publicly to third parties that's affected. That's
Right.
So
don't say it within your family and don't say it to anybody outside the family, but you got your free speech.
You totally have it. Justice Francesca Marzari said the dad's opposition to the therapies that the daughter has chosen place her at significant risk of harm.
It does, yeah.
This is an explicit example of family violence on account of being a public denial of the daughter's gender identity.
Yeah, so if I'm a 14-year-old baseball player who desperately wants to play professional baseball.
Yes.
That's my calling. And I demand steroids. Because there's demonstrable harm by not giving it to me, the therapy, not giving me that therapy based on what I imagine myself to be, what I aspire to be. Do you have to?
In that instance, I think you should, but of course you won't be able to.
Yeah, I'd be surprised.
Play
Very
ball.
surprised. Very selective how they want to parent our kids.
You have struck out. All right, well, Dad has said that his daughter's mental health, has been volatile since him and his wife actually divorced. And he said that the daughter had exhibited signs of emotional instability and depression and had been acting out sexually. Again, she's 14, even making a brief foray into lesbianism.
Mental health. That's what those kids in Colorado were screaming, and they were right. And thank you, thank you, Canada, because of your goofy way of you approaching this, that if the parent tries to get help for the kid's mental problems, that will be considered a violation. You can't treat transgenderism as a mental illness. We will not let you therapize, right? So here you have a situation because the kid now is going through a phase after lesbianism, after acting out because of a divorce. Now that the kid is going through a phase, but now that it's been labeled transgenderism, now you can't get therapy, right? So all these acting out issues, all these troubled psychiatric issues, to even attempt to explore them would make you run afoul of the idea that you're trying to therapize away her actual gender.
Oh, Canada. All right, well, our final story of the day. Let's talk about basically you graduate or you're about to graduate. You're going to go off, get that first career. How confident are you that college prepared you for what you're about to endeavor in?
Yeah, given the low standards at which we're educating our kids all the way through college, given the fact that we're social promoting kids, as we mentioned earlier, kids are getting into college not because they're qualified, but because federal student loans keep flying in from the government to take these kids, and for all sorts of inclusivity. Inclusion on a college campus means you have to include kids who don't belong, right? Right. By definition, this push to inclusion means you have to take kids who can't make it, and that's what they're doing. So what we're seeing is lower intelligence levels, lower preparedness levels, lower skill levels, and yet still, even in the midst of all of this, kids are recognizing that they're not prepared for anything, right? It shouldn't surprise us. Students lose confidence in career outlooks as they progress through college. The farther they get through school, the less prepared for real life they feel. And that's because colleges aren't preparing kids for real life. These kids are right? They show up as freshmen in college with, some basic semblance of what the real world's like. By the time they're juniors in college, they think the whole world is college. In other words, you don't have to work for anything, that there are bunnies to pet during finals week. You have crying booths, right? You have coloring books. You have 8,000 diversity officers waiting for a microaggression so they can defend you and try to fire the professors involved. That's what they think reality is. And so the big scary idea of leaving college and actually having, to show up at 8 o'clock in the morning or work a full 8-hour shift or only have an hour for lunch, right? That is beyond them. Nearly 40% of graduating college seniors, 40, feel unprepared for their future careers, according to a recent survey. Students going into college as freshmen, and this is not surprising, felt more prepared for a career than graduating seniors. The Lend EDU College Pulse survey, conducted between December and mid-March, asked almost 8,000 college students, quote, do you think that college is sufficiently preparing you for your own future career? The survey includes a list of 69 schools and their ranking. In order to be part of the list, schools had to have answers from at least 30 students. And some of this information, explain this chart.
It's insane. So if you take a look at the seniors, the ones who are graduating this year, it's sad that less than half of them say, oh, yeah, my actual college prepared me for my future career. Only 47% said, yeah, I'm prepared. 36% said no. And then 17% are like, I don't know. But those little freshmen, they're so innocent, so malleable. The 2022 class, 54% said, yep, I'm totally going to be prepared for a career after college, while only 20%, so only 1 in 5 were like, no, college isn't going to prepare me. And overall, out of all 4 years, when you put it together, less than half, it's 49% say, yeah, I'm ready. That's staggering to me.
And you know what's so sad about this? The university's response to this will be, we need more counselors. We need more sensitivity training. We need more puppies and kangaroos and llamas to do yoga with, right?
Absolutely.
We need less stress and emphasis on grades and achievement. We need more free time, right? We need more counseling. The thing that screwed up the universities is the only thing the university can see is the answer to these problems. So you're going to counsel them to think that they're prepared when they're really not. Prepare them. How about that? How about let those kids in who are prepared to begin college? Make sure that they're taking a rigorous course of study. Don't coddle them, right? Be there for what they need, but don't coddle them. And I promise you, that number's going to drop to 0. They will feel prepared. But then again, the entire diversity, equity, and counseling aspect of the university, all the big Barney aspects of being at a big university, what would they do with their time? Only so many professors they can chase out of academia.
I went to college to party and to get warm fuzzies and all that. You're talking about academics. What the heck?
That's stressful. You're stressing me out.
See, the thing is, though, I feel like I would have been the freshman being like, yeah, college is going to be great. I'm the optimist. So college is going to be great. I'm going to learn so much. And you're the senior because you're the pessimist being like, I learned nothing. This was such a waste.
Just hit the water bong and have another piece of pizza. You don't need to go to calculus. Dude, it's curved, man.
That is true.
You can get 20% in that class is like an 80, dude, because no one can pass it. So just spleef up, dude.
That's exactly. All right, well, taking a look at the overall list, the University of Notre Dame actually topped the list with 68% of their students saying they felt prepared, 21% saying they don't. And at the very bottom was the University of Houston, only 25% saying they feel prepared. 1 in 4 kids are like, I'm ready to go out into the job market. 48% of them saying no. And what I love, because I always do this, I look at the list for California schools. And California schools make up 4 of the bottom 10. And that's Berkeley, Davis, Riverside, and Santa Cruz. So 4 of the bottom, the worst ones, are like
the biggest
least
social
prepared.
Justice warrior teachers are
Shocker.
the ones that,
I don't understand that correlation. But
and imagine what company presidents are thinking, CEOs are thinking about this, right? God. So you're not even you're you go to UC Berkeley, you're $190,000 in debt for a degree in women's studies and transgender basket weaving. You don't feel at all prepared for your job, and you got CEOs out there, right, contemplating whether or not to hire you. When all you're really good for is an Antifa march.
And even then, you're like, you don't actually want to go out and march. You're just going to threaten to march and put it on social media saying you're going to be there marching. But
I'm the president of IBM. Hey, Jones, get me some radical feminists right away. Stat. We need them for the engineering department.
I'm on it. Also, just as another one note, the lowest Ivy League that was on there was Princeton, and they only have 45% feeling prepared. Just a sad testament to what our academic institutions have become.
Na, 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 na. 'Tis graduation season. We need some graduate extra credit, Katie.
And now we commence with extra credit, this week sponsored by overpriced pieces of paper. Some may call them diplomas. Finals are just around the corner, if not smacking you in the face right now. But just chillax and go pet a donkey. The State University of New York, Plattsburgh, has upped the ante on stupid therapy objects for college kids stressed out at the finals time. We had puppies and goats, but now you can be stressed with Donkey's Day. According to a representative from the organization Therapets, donkeys work miracles. Quote, "They truly do work miracles because they can make you feel better if you feel bad. Because as we know with this bunch of asses, it's all about feelings."
Yeah, in cheap Tijuana bars, donkeys serve all sorts of purposes.
And it's all about feelings at Mason High School in Ohio. The school announced that valedictorian and salutatorian will be done away with next year so that students' mental wellness can improve. They are also considering reducing homework and have agreed to start school a half hour later. The school is hoping to reduce the competitive culture that doing well in academics supposedly creates. Baker Mayfield, quarterback of the Cleveland Browns, blasted the school, saying, "If you want something bad enough, work for it. People are too soft." That's like a double insult because he's on the Browns, the perpetually awful football team. Yes, I know they're getting much better, but it's because Baker's actually competitive.
To the progressive left, the educational left, mental health and wellness means less responsibility, less homework, less grades, less finals, less everything. That's not improving mental health. That's why so many kids don't feel competent to graduate for their careers.
But we can't have feelings hurt, so let's segregate and have everyone go to their respective colored graduation. National Association of Scholars recently released a 2-year study citing 173 colleges and universities with neo-segregation on campus, including 125, or 72%, segregating graduation ceremonies. And while these ceremonies may be voluntary, researchers found participation is pressed upon the students with promises of alumni group entrance and race-conscious hiring committees and scholarship opportunities. So it's back to 1952 or something.
Yeah, 1942. And it's really remarkable when you think about this, that college is, we keep hearing about how college is a diverse, inclusive place, how it's a shared experience, how we're a family. And the minute it comes time to send them out into the real world, the last thing you have them do is segregate.
One of those neo-segregated universities is Harvard, which decided to up it a notch this year with an undocu graduation. Undocu graduation for all those undocumented graduates. The reception was hosted by the student-run immigration advocacy group Act on a Dream and welcomed more than 50 students, faculty, staff, and administrators. The co-director of the group said, "This campus can be very difficult to navigate, yet here are so many people who came out at the end of this tunnel as better individuals than how they entered it." I'm not sure she read those words to herself before she actually decided to say them in front of a group of undocumented people.
Just out of curiosity, what other felonies can we actually give degrees for? Maybe we should just do that. We should have a celebration for all felonious behavior.
At least words were well said at Liberty University, which held its commencement ceremonies last weekend, welcoming Vice President Mike Pence as a speaker. Pence told his personal story of walking away from his faith before getting involved in a college campus ministry. With today's climate of religious intolerance, especially toward Christians, Pence told the graduates to be ready and to look to Jesus as a source of strength. He closed with this: "Right after we get done making this country great again, you're going to make it greater than ever before. God bless you, and God bless America."
Don't forget, this is a Christian university hosting Mike Pence, and there were actual protesters among the students because they didn't like his Christian message. How you object to that message is beyond me. Way to go, Mike.
And that's your extra credit for this week. We did it. We got through the horribleness that is, well, this show, or maybe the past 4 years of your college. So you're officially ready to at least do that. I don't think I'm ready for my career, but at least I got that part done.
Well, have we prepared you with confidence to enter the realm of motherhood?
No, not yet. I need Argyle's onesies.
Argyle onesies, Argyle maternity clothes.
You can send that right to the office, FreedomProject.
That's right.
Absolutely. Now, if you have any stories or maybe some Argyle suggestions, make sure you go ahead, type them down below in the comments section, and then make sure you hit that like button and share this episode. And don't forget to subscribe to the Dr. Duke Show audio podcast on iTunes and leave us that precious, precious 5-star review.
And that does it for us this week on The Dr. Duke Show. If you like what you heard, please share the video and podcast with your friends. For Freedom Project, I'm Dr. Duke. She's baby mama Katie, and we'll see you next time.